Welcome to the show. I'm Mark Crutcher, and I'm joined by the usual suspects, and that's my assistant, Renee Hobbs. Hello, Renee.
Hello.
And Melissa Conway from Texas Right to Life.
Good to be here.
And Elizabeth McClung from Texas Right to Life.
Howdy.
Howdy. Welcome back. Were you born in Texas, too?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And you went to Texas A&M?
Yes, sir.
And you know Texas A&M is kind of like a cult, right?
It happens to the best of us.
Right, right.
Good answers.
Yep. We've got something here that's, I think, going to anger a lot of people when we get to it here in a minute. But first, we need to spend about 2 minutes going over the news.
Responding to a national ad campaign by pro-abortion Catholics, many Catholic leaders are coming forward to reaffirm the Church's true position. In Kansas, Archbishop Joseph Naumann joined Bishops John Brungart, Carl Keamy, and Edward Weisenberger in stating that Catholics have a moral obligation to keep what they call the human rights catastrophe of abortion in mind when voting. And in Texas, Cardinal Daniel DiNardo, Archbishop Gustavo Garcia Seller, Bishop Kevin Farrell, and Bishop Stephen Lopes publicly stated that someone cannot call themselves a Catholic while actively supporting abortion. In Illinois, several crisis pregnancy centers have filed suit against the state over a new law Governor Bruce Rauner signed in July. That legislation requires the pro-life CPCs to provide abortion referrals despite their moral or religious feelings. Attorneys for Alliance Defending Freedom are representing the centers and say that the law violates their First Amendment rights. In Washington, Senate Democrats have held up funding to fight the Zika virus since June because Republicans would not allow some of the money to go to Planned Parenthood. But last week, the Republicans caved in and signed onto a $1.1 billion bill that includes payments to Planned Parenthood to pay for abortion and contraception. A circuit court judge in Ohio has dismissed a lawsuit brought by Stericycle Incorporated against the pro-life organization Created Equal and its founder, Mark Harrington. Stericycle picks up and disposes of babies killed in abortion clinic, but objected to a campaign by Created Equal that characterized them as partners in the abortion holocaust. The pro-life group was represented by attorneys from the Thomas More Society in Chicago. I'm Renee Hobbs, and this is Life in 120. For daily news updates, join us at ProLifeAmerica.com.
Are y'all familiar with the term that the pro-aborts always use about forced motherhood? That when you deny somebody the right to have an abortion, kill their baby, you're forcing them into motherhood.
Yes.
I mean, it's a preposterous argument. They're already mothers.
Women are incubators.
Yeah, that's right. That's their argument.
Yes.
They're already mothers. When you tell a woman that abortion's illegal, you're not telling her she has to be a mother. She's already a mother. What you're telling her is you can't kill the child that you're the mother of. That's what you're doing. But sometimes these people take it to even another extreme, and this, to me, is pretty amazing. There's a recent article in the New York Times by Katha Pollitt, who's a raging pro-abort. You can't kill enough babies to satisfy people like her. She made a statement in this New York Times article talking about where are the men who are out there and coming forward to support women's right to kill their babies. She says, quote, "Where are the men grateful not to be forced into fatherhood," unquote. Have you ever heard of a woman walking down the street and picking out a guy and saying, "I'm going to take him somewhere and force him into fatherhood"? You know, if you're a man and you jump into bed with somebody, you accept the responsibility, if you're a real man, that you may be a father. You're not being forced into it. Mm-hmm. You're taking that risk. That's the consequences of your behavior. Mm-hmm. Men are not forced into fatherhood any more than women are forced into motherhood. And so, and this flies in the face of historically feminist positions. That's why the early feminists were all pro-life. They recognized that abortion is something that serves the purposes of sexually irresponsible and sexually predatory males. It's not something that serves women. No woman was ever served from having an abortion or for killing her baby. And that's why early feminists were all adamantly pro-life. The scary thing about this is it's not new. Mm-mm. I remembered an incident that happened to me, and as it turned out, I was able to find it. May 11th, 1990, I was on a PBS broadcast, and there was a woman on there the same day on the pro-abortion side named Ann Taylor Fleming. And I listened to what she had to say, and I was just absolutely astonished that this woman who calls herself a feminist would make the statements that she's making. Believe it or not, I found the tape that I made of that speech from her. And I want to play that right now. I want people to listen to this, and I want you to hear what they're actually saying. Listen to what this woman is really saying.
This is Spectrum, personal opinion on issues of public interest from 6 different viewpoints. Now, today's comments.
I'm Ann Taylor Fleming. I often feel that in this position of commentator, I'm talking as a woman to women. Not always, but a lot. I came of age with the women's movement. It has given license to my ambitions and dreams and filled me with a fervor for equality that permeates all that I do. But this time I want to turn the tables a bit, take an issue that always seems like a woman's issue and pitch it directly towards the men out there. And that issue is abortion. In our excitement and, yes, anger, we women have tended to appropriate that issue. In a sense, forced men to the sidelines with our tough talk about, it's my body and I'll do what I want with it. There was a time and a place and a need for that probably, but it's time now to invite the men of America back in, to ask them to raise their voices for choice. After all, millions of them have gone through abortions too. Millions of them have been party to the termination of a pregnancy that would otherwise have fundamentally changed their lives and tethered them forever to an unwanted child. We keep forgetting somehow that men are in this too. I'm talking about decent, caring men, not the swaggering, don't want to know about it Romeos who take a hike when told they are on the road to fatherhood. Those men are hardly to be counted on for anything, certainly not to march down Pennsylvania Avenue with a pro-choice placard. But all those other men out there, the nice ones, our fathers and brothers and boyfriends and husbands, what about them? I dare say that many of them have impregnated women along the way and been let off the hook in a big, big way, emotionally, economically, and every other way, when the women went ahead and had abortions. But surely for some of them, the nicest of the nicest, the sense of relief for themselves was mixed with sympathy for and gratitude towards those women whose ultimate responsibility it was to relieve them of responsibility by having abortions. The time just seems appropriate to get many men into the pro-choice brigades, to hear from them, to hear them speak loudly and clearly about their support for the rights of the women, past, present, and future in their lives, and for the brutally tough decisions those women have had to make. Abortion is not a woman's issue, even though finally and fundamentally it must be her decision. Anything less is punitive and unfair. But men are a huge piece of the puzzle, and it would sure be nice to hear from all those men out there whose lives have been changed, bettered, and substantially eased because they were not forced into unwanted fatherhood. For Spectrum, I'm Ann Taylor Fleming.
All right, what do you think?
The
Do you know what to say?
Forced fatherhood is a joke, and the men that she is talking about on that tape, they are not. What is the word for it?
They're not the ones that you should be looking up to.
They're not. No.
She is saying that, women have some sort of responsibility to these men to have abortions to keep from, she's literally saying that, to keep from forcing them into fatherhood. Mm-hmm. And then she's positing this as some sort of pro-feminist argument. And she's saying, we're talking about the good men out there, our fathers and our brothers and all this, the good ones. Mm-hmm. The ones, in other words, the ones who support legalized abortion. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about the swaggering types who take a hike when things go bad.
Right.
That's exactly the group that are pro-choice men.
That's right.
And if you don't believe that this has potential problems, read the report that you and I did. When these men don't get what they want,
That's right.
and the woman doesn't have the abortion, how many of them will kill those women,
Kill the women and the babies, and I was going to bring that point up exactly.
put them in a nursing home,
That's right.
leave them in a permanent vegetative state?
Real good men do not advocate or promote killing babies, and they protect the women that are pregnant.
And they support them.
Exactly.
They support those women and they support those babies. But this woman is actually on this tape, and as this Pollitt character is now doing, saying that the good men are the ones that we abort our babies for. That's literally what she's saying.
No, it's an act of desperation to kind of try to hopefully find someone that might fit in that category, but they don't exist. It's just more propaganda to just turn our eyes away from the real issue that she is clearly stating that women aren't strong enough to be mothers. Women aren't strong enough to make good decisions, and she's looking for men to jump in and be the savior of the situation. And I think that really diminishes the worth of a woman.
The whole thing is a bastardization of feminism. That's what this is. If you were to bring forth in time somehow or another, resurrect Elizabeth Cady Stanton or Victoria Woodhull, who, by the way, was the first woman to run for president, not Hillary Clinton. But if you were to bring these women forward, Susan B. Anthony, Evelyn Judge, who wrote the Equal Rights Amendment, if you were to bring them forward and play that tape, they would be outraged that a woman who's now taking this mantle as a feminist is making this argument that women have an obligation or responsibility to relieve them of responsibility and not forcing them into fatherhood. And as she said, quote, go ahead and have an abortion. Just, oh yeah, it's no big deal. We'll just go ahead and do this.
You know, in spite of the completely twisted and backwards logic, if you go back to the fundamentals, if you go back to the first things, she says something that's accurate in this article. In this op-ed piece, she says, we grieve quietly. It's not something we're supposed to talk about, but we don't ever dare tell anybody that we didn't grieve. For so long, the pro-abortion movement has advocated that it's no big deal to have an abortion. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it.
Like getting a haircut or something.
Exactly, and that has stuck with so many women. Whenever they do experience an abortion and they hear that mantra, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Well, since it's not a big deal, I shouldn't be grieving. I shouldn't. That initial thought of grief, of loneliness and everything, that's an accurate feeling. But that backwards logic of getting them to the completely inaccurate conclusion of shouting your abortion,
right?
That's unacceptable.
Well, we've talked to thousands of women over the years because of our 800 campaign that we do and for abortion malpractice. Post-aborted women, we've talked to thousands of them in the 5.5 years that Renee's been here. She's spoken out a bunch. And I can tell you that I've had women tell me that were emotionally traumatized by their abortion, said, I didn't say anything for you. I thought there was something mentally wrong with me because I'm sitting here saying, I can't sleep. I'm thinking about this baby. I can't bond with my future babies because I think about the one that I killed. And they say, I thought there was something wrong with me because I hear all these other women saying, oh, no, it's no big deal. It's like going to the
It's just one more lie that
pedicure.
the abortion industry continues to feed women.
Right. And
Instead of shouting their abortion, women who have sought and lived true forgiveness and mercy and healing, we need those courageous women to be speaking up and proclaiming the mercy and forgiveness that they have found through their healing process.
this is all part of the campaign that I wrote about it in my book, Siege, about the pro-aborts have recognized that our biggest weapon in the pro-life movement is the stigma of abortion. That's what keeps us in the game. And it's never going to go away. It's like the stigma of prostitution or pornography. You can make them legal. You can pay for them with government money. You can do whatever. You can put a porn shop on every corner in the United States. It'll still be stigmatized. The same thing is true with abortion. They will never take the stigma away. And we've got articles here where some of them have actually said that. Look, we're wasting our time trying to take the stigma away. Let's try to go off in other directions to defend abortion because we're never going to take the stigma away. And they're right, it's not. But they keep trying.
Yeah, they're trying that campaign, abortion in good faith. Well, good faith for
I was
whom?
just about to bring that
yeah.
up. I've got the ads here. I was stunned to see this, and there was another thing here on Dallas Morning News. Of course, the Dallas Morning News is one of the most radically pro-abortion newspapers in the country. But here you have a full-page ad, Abortion in Good Faith. And I've now found out that this is an ad campaign they did all over the country. I don't know what an ad like this costs in these days.
Probably
But I
pretty
can tell you, when I was in
expensive.
the auto industry, and this was, 30-something years ago, an ad like this at that time in the Dallas Morning News would cost you $20,000, $25,000 a day. My suspicion is that this ad probably costs today $40,000 to $50,000 to run one time, a full-page ad in the Dallas Morning News. And they're doing this in newspapers all over the country,
Yeah.
right?
I think 5 different states, yeah.
Where is the money coming from? And of course we know it's coming from the George Soroses and the Warren Buffetts and those types. But this is designed to take the stigma off of abortion. And this is designed especially to say to you as a Catholic, you can be pro-abortion and still be a good Catholic. You're just as good a Catholic as the Pope. Just because you support abortion or you've had 10 abortions or whatever it might be, you're still just as good a Catholic.
Thank God at Mass last weekend, the bishops in Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio had every single priest during his homily, during his sermon, read a letter from the bishops denouncing the Catholics for Choice Act.
Well, first off, you got to make one thing clear here, and I'm not Catholic. But I'm going to tell you something. If you read John Paul II, who's one of my heroes, if you read his encyclical on this, when you're a Catholic for choice, you have excommunicated yourself. Whether the church excommunicates you or not is beside the point. You have functionally excommunicated yourself. And what that means is it's physically impossible to be what they say here, a Catholic for choice, because the minute that choice is abortion, you're not Catholic anymore. And that's why these people should not be given communion. And these priests that are giving communion to people they know to be, particularly politicians, that they know to be pro-aborts, there needs to be discipline exercised by the Catholic Church on those priests. They should not be giving communion. I'm Baptist. You belong to a non-denominational church, and as do you.
Non-denominational.
Right. A Catholic priest is not allowed to give us communion. And I fully understand that. I have been in giving speeches in pro-life events where a Mass was being held, and I remember one particular one in Wisconsin where the priest came up and said, listen, I'm sorry, I don't want to insult you, but we cannot give you communion. You're not insulting me. You've got rules. You should live by them. I appreciate the fact that you live by your rules. But then don't turn around. And if Ted Kennedy or Barbara Mikulski or
Nancy Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi is at the communion rail, you just run down there and give her communion. That is a scandal. And the priest that does that should face some discipline. The big advantage that the Catholic Church has is its hierarchical structure. But that hierarchical structure becomes its biggest disadvantage if it doesn't use it.
I'm just offended on an intellectual level because while I'm not Catholic, I do have a really good understanding of what good faith is, and that's just from my business background. And in good faith is a legal term, which means protections that are provided for both parties. Well, in this case, one of the parties is killed brutally. Right. There's absolutely no protection for that unborn child. And this is just once again, high-rolling money moguls, which are using their marketing arm to use a legal commercial term to kind of spill over and make people think that in good faith, abortion is good for everyone. It's not good for anyone.
And it certainly is not good for your claim to be Catholic.
No.
Because it eliminates it. Unless John Paul II was lying when he wrote that encyclical talking about how if you materially participate in abortion, you have excommunicated yourself. Unless he was lying, and I don't think that he was, unless he was lying, then this destroys your claim to be Catholic right here. You're out. You can't claim this. This is part of the effort to remove stigma. Just a couple of days later in the Dallas Morning News, which again is one of the most radically pro-abortion newspapers you'll ever see, they have this experience going on around the country now called the Storytellers Project, and they were in Dallas, and they have the hashtag Shout Your Abortion, which you were referring to a moment ago. They're trying to get women to come forward and say, this was great, I loved it, it was fun, it solved a problem for me, I moved on, I become, a corporate CEO because I killed my baby 20 years ago, whatever they want you to think. And now they're having this thing where they're doing these little storyteller things where people just come together and they sit around and they swap stories about their abortion experiences. And what a great experience it was. First off, I wonder if they would allow people from Silent No More to participate in these storyteller things. And my suspicion is
Of course not.
they would not be welcome. Those women would not be welcome. Only the women who think it's a great idea. The other thing is, in the story that was put in the Dallas Morning News, this was on September 15th, just a few days ago, the interesting thing here is they don't have anybody from the pro-life side to comment on this. Don't newspapers, when they talk about something controversial, if they're going to try to be quote-unquote fair, they'll have both sides.
They should.
There's nobody in here from the pro-life side. Not only that, at the end of the story, They give the dates, the locations where you can attend one of these things, and what it costs. And they're charging a bunch, like $25 just to go sit and listen to these women talk about how great their abortions were. I wonder if Janet and Georgette from Silent No More were to say, we're coming to Dallas to set up a Silent No More deal, would the Dallas Morning News do a whole article, not have any pro-aborts participate in the article, and then give the dates, times, and prices of how you attend that function?
Of course not.
You know good and well they wouldn't.
Well, I can say from a personal testimony that I know they would not, only because during the passage of HB2, when there were so many people at the Capitol and that Texas law was being fought for, Silent No More and thousands of women were there standing up against the law and sharing their story right in the middle of the rotunda and talking about how horrific abortion is and how it's wrecked their lives. There was not a single story on that.
Right.
There was not a single story
But they're sitting
released.
here at the same time when that HB2, House Bill 2 in Texas was going on. They're talking about all these pro-choice women that are outraged in Texas. The Texas pro-choice women are coming to Austin in droves, and they're going to fight this thing, and Texas women are standing up. Most of the women that were standing up weren't from Texas. They
Correct.
were bussing them in from out of the state, and they were paying them like $70 a day or something. I can't remember what it was.
$12 an hour.
Was that what it was? They were paying them to come in and protest. So you could go round up homeless people. You could do anything you wanted to. But again, the lines are being drawn. Renee and I have talked about this before y'all were on the show. We're in an unusual stage of the pro-life movement. And I talk about this in Siege. We're in what I call the putting on your uniform stage. For 40 years, people have, to a large measure, been allowed to say, oh, I don't have a position on the abortion issue. I'm staying out. I'm neutral. I don't care, whatever. But events today are forcing people to make a decision one way or the other. They're being forced to either put on a pro-life uniform or a pro-choice uniform. And that's the stage that we're in right now. The good news is more people are putting on pro-life uniforms than are putting on pro-abortion uniforms. And that's the reason the numbers are changing around like they are in the polls and so forth. And things like this, where the Dallas Morning News, for example, when I've challenged them on some of this stuff, they've always said, we don't take a position on abortion. We're very neutral. We pose pro-life stuff and we pose pro-abortion stuff. We put it all in the paper. We're very neutral. Even they can't make that claim anymore. They can't possibly make that claim with some of the people that are columnists and some of the people that they're op-ed pieces and so forth. None of them can make that claim any longer. And they're being forced to put on their uniform, and they've put on their pro-abortion uniform. They've always had it on, but it's just now that we can see it. But this is happening all over our country. We're in this putting on our uniform stage, and that's good for us. We're forcing the issue. And overall, in the long haul, that's going to be good for the pro-life movement. I'm convinced of that. Anyway, another great show, guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week. We'll see you next week. And in the meantime, remember, Life Dynamics is not here to put up a good fight. We're here to win, because winning is how the killing stops.